right now, as we speak, your resume is probably sitting in some digital black box.
Oh, almost undoubtedly.
Right. You probably spent, I don't know, hours formatting it, agonizing over every single bullet point, making sure the action verbs were sufficiently punchy.
And tweaking the margins just to get it onto one page.
Exactly. You get the margins right, and then you submit it to an online portal. And now, well, now it's just being judged by an algorithm that you can't even see.
Operating on rules that you don't know.
Yeah, for reasons absolutely no one can explain to you. And honestly, it is terrifying. The entire process of job hunting and, well, career building in general, it's become this chaotic, overwhelming grind.
It feels very reliant on sheer luck.
Luck or just brute force, exhausting effort, just grinding it out. But what if we told you there is a woodland lodge where a calm, broad-shouldered brown bear in a tracksuit is waiting to just completely dismantle that chaotic system?
It sounds completely surreal when you say it out loud like that.
A bear in a tracksuit.
Right. But the environment you are describing is actually the visual and psychological front end for one of the most sophisticated, rigorously structured career and recruitment philosophies we have ever analyzed.
And this is the domain of BAIR, right?
Yes, which stands for Brehon AI Recruitment.
The governed bear. So I want to set the mission for this deep dive right out of the gate because we're adopting a very specific, warm workshop facilitator tone today.
I like that approach.
Yeah, this is not going to be some dry, high-level overview of a corporate tech platform. This is a masterclass designed specifically for you, the candidate. We are opening the doors to what they call the library, which is the teaching hub inside BAIR's system.
And it is a fascinating hub.
It really is. So we're going to walk through the seminars, we're going to unpack the diagnostic tools they use, and explore the exact operational systems that BAIR relies on to train, prepare, and inevitably secure great roles for the people in its ecosystem.
I think the word inevitably is the operative term there. Because the massive shift we are talking about today is moving a candidate away from a posture of desperate seeking.
Where you're just throwing applications at the wall.
Exactly. Hoping something sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Moving away from that and toward a posture of governed preparation.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the setting, because we really have to ground this in the visual metaphor the creators have built.
Right, the Davidos environment.
Yes, so we are stepping into this operating system environment known as Davidos, and within that system, there is a woodland executive lodge. You walk in, and waiting for you is Bay. Now, I have to admit, when I first dug into our sources for this, I saw the description of a brown bear running recruitment, and my brain immediately went to, like, a cartoon.
Oh, sure, like a mascot.
Yeah, I pictured a fuzzy mascot giving out high fives at a college career fair, but the documentation is incredibly clear. This is not goofy at all.
It is the absolute antithesis of goofy. The visual anchor of the governed bear is a deeply intentional psychological tool.
How?
Well, we are talking about a broad-shouldered brown bear who is upright and entirely composed. And he wears a premium black athletic tracksuit with a gold shield crest on it.
Okay, so premium athleisure, not a theme park costume.
No, not at all. Or, if the situation demands a boardroom context, he might wear a tailored Navy suit. But the tracksuit is his classic everyday uniform. And the doctrine dictates that he has a very steady gaze, his arms are usually crossed, and he just exudes this immense quiet authority.
Quiet authority. I like that phrase.
Yeah, emotion is used incredibly sparingly. He is not there to hype you up. He is officially designated as the steward of standards, builder of systems, protector of trust.
I have to stop and ask the obvious question here, though. Why an anthropomorphic bear? Like, if I'm a professional, say, senior project manager or a marketing director, and I am stressed about my mortgage, the macroeconomic climate, and finding my next role, why on earth am I being asked to interact with a bear?
Consider the traditional alternative for a second. Think about the psychological state of a job seeker walking into a standard corporate environment.
Oh, it's terrible.
Right. You walk into a glass-walled skyscraper, you take the elevator up to the 40th floor, you sit in this sterile waiting room, and eventually you meet a recruiter in a sharp suit who basically holds all the cards.
Yeah, your anxiety is spiked before you even open your mouth.
Exactly. You feel judged, you feel small. The corporate ego of that entire environment is designed to intimidate you. The bear and the woodland setting completely strips that ego away.
It neutralizes the power dynamic.
It does. It introduces an atmosphere that the sources describe as patient, rooted, and seasonal.
Seasonal. I want to linger on that word for a second because it implies that a career isn't just this relentless linear upward sprint where you have to be moving at 100 miles an hour every single day.
Right, which is how we usually treat it.
Exactly. A career has winters where things are dormant and you are just surviving, and it has springs where rapid growth happens.
And a bear understands seasons better than anything. When Bear greets visitors at this woodland lodge, he doesn't immediately demand to see your resume.
Or ask you the classic, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right. The greeting is always the same. He asks, what brings you to the woods today?
Which instantly gives the candidate agency.
Yes, and he offers 4 distinct paths. Are you looking for work? Are you looking for talent? Are you learning? Or are you simply exploring?
That is so refreshing.
By structuring the interaction this way, it just diffuses the transactional panic that usually defines job hunting. And, as we said, he deliberately under-emotes. He isn't overly enthusiastic, he's just steady.
Right.
That ensures your focus stays entirely on the doctrine he is teaching, rather than getting caught up in the emotional roller coaster of a typical recruitment process.
The way you were describing him, it sounds like having a Zen master as your career coach. But like a Zen master who also happens to be a ruthless, highly efficient systems engineer.
That is the perfect synthesis of his character, actually. He is deeply philosophical, but purely operational. And as the Zen master of systems, he operates on a set of foundational doctrines that every single candidate must learn.
Okay, let's get into the doctrine.
The entire philosophy rests on what is called the first axiom. And the first axiom states, effort does not scale, systems scale.
Effort does not scale, systems scale. Wow. That statement alone feels like an indictment of the way everyone is taught to look for a job.
Oh, completely.
From the time we graduate, the advice is always the same, right? Work harder, hustle, network more, send out 50 more applications a day, just grind it out.
Which is a massive trap.
Yeah.
And that trap is addressed in his final rule, which is deeply connected to that first axiom. The final rule states, hope is not a strategy, busyness is not progress, infrastructure is value.
Okay, break that down for me. If I'm the candidate and I'm currently spending, say, 6 hours a day tweaking my cover letters and manually filling out those awful Workday portal applications.
The worst.
The absolute worst. How does BAIR view my activity?
BAIR views that activity as frantic, unscalable noise. The doctrine teaches that an individual contributor, or a candidate who operates with a frantic mindset, wakes up every morning and asks, what should I do today? They define their value by their activity. I sent out 30 emails today, therefore I had a productive day.
Even if 0 of those emails turn into an actual interview, the busyness itself feels like progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a CEO or a candidate who views themselves as the founder and CEO of their own career wakes up and asks a fundamentally different question. They ask, what system should exist so this never requires my manual effort again?
Oh, that's entirely different.
Right. Blasting out 100 identical resumes is just manual labor. It doesn't build anything durable. When the day's over, you have to wake up the next day and do it all again. That is why Brehon AI says infrastructure is value. You have to build an engine that works while you sleep.
Okay, I am sold on the philosophy. I'm sitting by the fire in this woodland lodge, and this bear in a tracksuit has just told me that my frantic, exhausting job hunt is basically a massive waste of my own energy. Where do I go from here?
You move to the next base.
Right. How do I actually learn to stop relying on brute force effort and start building these scalable systems?
Well, we step out of the greeting area of the lodge, and we walk into BAIR's primary teaching hub. We enter the library.
The library. Okay, let's really unpack what happens in this space, because our mission today is to give the listener a masterclass in these specific tools.
The library is where the intellectual foundation of the candidate is poured. This is where BAIR utilizes a suite of diagnostic and educational tools, the most prominent being the CQV guide.
Let's stop right there and define our terms. What exactly is the CQV guide? We are throwing around a lot of terminology, and I want to make sure we don't lose the listener who is trying to follow along and actually apply this to their own life.
Of course. So, in the context of BAIR's framework, the CQV guide functions as a definitive diagnostic tool within their candidate intelligence data structure.
Candidate intelligence.
Yes. While the sources treat it as a proprietary title within the doctrine, functionally, it is a map for diagnosing your core qualifications and value against real-time market signals.
Core qualifications and value. CQV. Got it.
Right. It is the tool that transitioned you from looking at your career as just a static list of past jobs to understanding your career as a dynamic set of market inputs.
But wait, candidate intelligence. That sounds like something a geopolitical analyst uses at the CIA, not a job seeker updating their LinkedIn.
It is a deliberate elevation of the concept. Candidate intelligence focuses on identifying overarching market signals, assessing structural skills, and determining career development inputs. Instead of just looking at what you did yesterday, candidate intelligence looks at where your industry is inevitably going tomorrow.
Now, I have to bring this up because whenever we start talking about data frameworks and intelligence in the context of recruitment, a massive red flag goes up for a lot of people.
Data privacy.
Exactly. The biggest fear with AI and hiring right now is that I'm going to upload my resume and some faceless company is going to scrape all my personal data, my name, my address, my employment history.
And use it to train their own open source models without your permission.
Yes, people are terrified of that.
Which is precisely why the library operates under a strict, non-negotiable governance model. The candidate intelligence framework relies entirely on analyzing concepts and trends. It fiercely structurally protects personally identifiable information, or PII.
Okay, that's crucial.
PR system is not chewing up your personal identity to spit out averages. It isolates the market signals from your identity.
That is a massive relief. It means you can use these diagnostic tools without feeling like you're selling your soul or your data to a machine.
Absolutely. BAIR operates under absolute data hygiene. And the teachings in the library, the seminars, the materials, they aren't just scraped from random internet blogs by some algorithm.
Right.
The doctrine emphasizes an intellectual lineage drawn from what they call A.Ward Editions and publications.
A.Ward Editions. So there is a vetted, published standard behind the advice. It's an actual curriculum, not just a chatbot hallucinating generic career tips.
It is a highly rigorous curriculum. So to answer your earlier question about how a candidate actually interacts with the CQV guide, if BAIR hates busy work, what does doing the work in the library actually look like?
Yes. Walk me through it. Let's make it concrete. I'm sitting at a heavy oak desk in the library. I open the CQV guide. What am I doing?
You are diagnosing your market fit. Let's invent a hypothetical candidate to make this really clear.
Okay.
Let's call him David. David is a mid-level logistics manager. Now, the old way of doing things, the effort-based way, would have David look at his resume, see the word logistics, and then go to a job board and type in logistics manager.
And apply to everything that pops up.
Exactly.
The spray and pray method.
Which is exhausting. But the CQV guide forces David to stop and read the market signals first. It prompts him to ask, what underlying concepts and skills are currently structurally inevitable in the logistics industry?
Oh, wow. Okay.
The guide helps him realize that just managing truck schedules manually on a spreadsheet is a decaying skill. The market signal says that automated routing systems are inevitable.
I'm trying to picture this transition in my head. It feels like David is switching from navigating a ship by looking at the stars, just kind of guessing based on what the sky looked like yesterday,
Right.
to suddenly having a fully calibrated GPS system that shows real-time satellite traffic data of the job market. He's no longer guessing where the ships are going. He can see the currents.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The CQV guide teaches David where he actually fits in the AI era. And honestly, it forces a deeply uncomfortable but necessary audit of his own professional infrastructure.
Because he might realize he's obsolete.
Exactly. It asks him, are you offering manual effort, which we already established does not scale, or are you offering judgment and the ability to manage complex systems?
So the library isn't just about reading books and feeling smart. It's a confrontation with the reality of your own value.
It is a mirror. You cannot build a system until you accurately assess what raw materials you actually possess.
Okay, so I've spent my time in the library. I've absorbed this foundational knowledge. I've used the CQV guide to map out my market signals, and I realized, just like our hypothetical logistics manager, David, that I need to transition my narrative.
Right.
I need to go from being someone who does manual tasks to someone who manages systems. Once a candidate absorbs that internal shift, how do they actually scale their impact out into the real world? Like, how do we move from the quiet study of the library into the live arena of the job market?
To do that, the candidate must follow BAIR's specific 4-stage seminar scaling journey.
To seminars.
The doctrine names these stages sequentially. You start at the concept hall, move to the grand auditorium, then the Olympic Stadium, and finally, the global telecast.
I love the imagery here. It's a literal lecture tour for the bear, but obviously it serves as a metaphor for the candidate's career progression.
It is the architectural blueprint for making your career inevitable. Because remember, BAIR's entire goal is to turn individual effort into durable infrastructure. So we start in the concept hall.
The concept hall sounds intimate, like a small, focused classroom. This is where you are mastering the basics of AI literacy and testing your specific, newly audited skills, correct?
Yes. In the concept hall, your focus is incredibly narrow. You are testing the waters. You are ensuring your foundational understanding of a system is actually solid before you rely on it.
Give me an example for David.
If David claims to understand automated routing software, the concept hall is where he applies it to a single route, or maybe a small daily task, just to prove the mechanics work. You are not trying to change the whole logistics company yet. You're just proving the concept.
Well, let me talk through this out loud because I want to make sure I'm grasping the application here. It feels very similar to how a stand-up comedian develops an hour-long special.
Oh, how so?
Well, you don't just write jokes in your notebook and immediately book a massive theater for a Netflix taping.
Right, that would be a disaster.
Total disaster. You go to a tiny, dark, open mic club on a Tuesday night. That is your concept hall. You tell the joke to 10 people. If they don't laugh, the system is broken, and you fix it. You have to prove the material works small before you ever attempt to scale it.
That analogy holds up perfectly because it highlights the necessity of failure at a low-stakes level. Once you prove the system works in the concept hall, once the 10 people consistently laugh at the joke, you earn the right to move to the grand auditorium.
Which translates to what for our candidate?
For a professional, the grand auditorium represents leading a team or applying these governed systems in a mid-level management role.
Okay.
You are no longer just managing your own single delivery route. You are responsible for ensuring that a team of 5 dispatchers are operating within the system you mastered in the concept hall. You are broadcasting your signal, your infrastructure, to a wider audience.
You are expanding the leverage of your system.
And then you push even further. You reach the Olympic Stadium and ultimately the global telecast.
Now, I have to push back here for a second. Olympic Stadium and global telecast sound incredibly intimidating.
They do sound massive.
Right. If I am a listener who is just trying to land a solid mid-level role, maybe I'm a senior copywriter or a regional sales manager, I don't have a global telecast audience. I don't have thousands of people reporting to me. How on earth do I apply an Olympic Stadium mindset to a Tuesday morning Zoom interview with a standard HR manager?
You apply it by understanding what that HR manager is actually searching for, even if they don't use BANS's terminology.
Which is what?
The person interviewing you is desperately looking for structural inevitability. They want a candidate whose success is guaranteed by their process, not by their mood that day.
Explain that. What does that actually sound like in the interview?
Well, in that Tuesday interview, if you operate from a concept hall mindset, you talk about how many hours you work, how hard you hustle, how much you care about the company mission. You emphasize your manual effort.
Right. I'm a hard worker.
Exactly. But if you operate from the Olympic Stadium mindset, you talk about the systems you build. You tell the interviewer, when I ran this campaign, I built an automated feedback loop that captured client revisions in real time, which reduced our error rate by 40%.
Ah. You are presenting yourself as an asset that creates infrastructure, rather than just a pair of hands that does tasks.
Exactly. You are proving that the system you build makes success inevitable, even if you, the creator of the system, take a 2-week vacation. If you can articulate that you build durable engines, you are speaking with the authority of the Olympic Stadium, even if you're just sitting in a tiny virtual conference room.
That is a massive perspective shift, but I imagine that to actually pull that off, to speak with that level of clinical authority and actually have the systems built to back it up, we have to borrow a playbook that is usually reserved for the C-suite. We have to adapt BAIR's most intense, demanding program and apply it to the individual candidate.
You are referring to the 90-day CEO transformation program.
Yes. And the core thesis of this program is absolutely fascinating to me. The stated goal is make the CEO unnecessary to routine execution.
Which is tied directly to the primary catchphrase.
The ultimate sign-off for the whole BAIR ecosystem, which is build assets, build systems, build inevitability.
If we connect this doctrine to the daily reality of the job seeker, it requires you to view yourself as the founder, the board of directors, and the CEO of your own career.
But wait, let me challenge this thesis for a second.
Sure.
The goal of a CEO in a corporation is to build the company up so well that they can remove themselves from the day-to-day operations, right? They want to be able to sit on a beach while the company makes money.
And in theory, yes.
But a candidate is desperately trying to get into the day-to-day operations of a job. They want the work. They want to be hired so they can do the tasks and get paid. How do we reconcile a philosophy of making yourself unnecessary with the reality of needing a job?
It is a brilliant question. And the resolution lies in understanding the difference between the job itself and the process of getting the job.
Okay, keep going.
You are not trying to make yourself unnecessary to the role you haven't secured yet. You're trying to make yourself unnecessary to the routine, exhausting execution of the job hunt.
Oh, wow. So the business that I am the CEO of right now is the business of getting myself hired.
Precisely. And right now, most candidates are running that business by digging with a spoon every single day. The 90-day program is designed to automate and systematize the business of your job search.
So you aren't digging with a spoon.
Exactly. You build the asset, which is your portfolio, your network, your market signal, based on the CQV guide, so that attracting opportunities becomes an inevitable output of the system, rather than something you have to manually chase down every hour.
So I am building a machine that finds jobs for me rather than me finding the jobs.
And BAIR provides a very specific 5-day weekly operating rhythm to construct this exact machine.
I want to walk through this rhythm day by day, and I want us to be as concrete as possible. No vague corporate speak. Let's go back to our hypothetical logistics manager, David.
Let's do it.
So Monday is designated as the construct phase. What is David actually doing on Monday morning?
Monday is about building the foundation. It is not about sending out resumes. For David, the construct phase means defining his core value proposition using the market signals he found in the library.
Okay.
He is writing the definitive case studies of his past work. He is creating the raw materials, the specific examples of how his routing system saved his last company money. He is building the underlying asset that the market will eventually see.
He is pouring the concrete. He is making sure the product, which is himself, is actually clearly defined. Okay, that makes sense. Tuesday is infrastructure.
If Monday was pouring the concrete, Tuesday is laying the pipes. How does David's message actually reach the logistics market without him having to yell it from the rooftops?
This is where the automation comes in, right?
Yes. On Tuesday, David is setting up automated job scrapers that filter out the noise and only send him roles that match his exact CQV profile.
So no more manually scrolling through LinkedIn for hours.
Exactly. He is also optimizing his own LinkedIn profile, not just as a static resume, but as a passive magnet, with specific keywords that automated recruiter tools are actively searching for. He is setting up email sequences to reach out to his existing network. He is building the digital infrastructure that will do the heavy lifting for the rest of the week.
He is building the conveyor belt, which brings us to Wednesday, customer reality.
Wednesday is the collision with the real world. You step out of the theoretical workshop and you test the system. Is David getting responses to those automated network emails? Are recruiters finding that passive LinkedIn profile? He is facing the reality of the customer. And in this scenario, the hiring managers are the customers.
And what if it's crickets? What if he gets 0 responses on Wednesday?
Then the reality check worked.
Wait, really?
Yes. If the reality of the market does not match David's expectations, it means the system is flawed and needs adjustment. It removes the emotional sting of rejection and replaces it with a data point. The pipe is leaking. Fix the pipe.
That's a huge relief, honestly. It's not, I'm a failure. It's the pipe is leaking. Okay, Thursday is leverage.
Leverage asks, how do we take the reality we learned on Wednesday and multiply its impact with minimal manual effort?
Give me an example.
Let's say David did get one response from a former colleague on Wednesday. Just one. Leverage means taking that single conversation and turning it into 3 warm introductions to hiring managers at other companies. It is the literal application of the first axiom, scaling the effort.
You don't just stop at the one coffee chat. You use it as a fulcrum.
Precisely. And finally, we reach Friday, the war room.
The war room. That sounds intense.
It requires absolute, clinical, brutal honesty. Remember, BAR is obsessed with governance and auditing. On Friday, David sits down and audits the data of his week. What worked? What failed? Where did he slip back into manual, unscalable effort?
He strips away all the vanity metrics.
Exactly. Having 50 coffee chats that led to 0 tangible pipeline movement is not progress. It is just busyness masquerading as productivity.
Because busyness is not progress.
Right. The war room is where you refine the standard, adjust the infrastructure, and prepare to execute a tighter, more efficient cycle the following Monday.
Implementing that rhythm, construct, infrastructure, customer reality, leverage, war room, it fundamentally rewires your brain. It turns you from a victim who is just tossed around by the whims of the job market into a precision machine that navigates it with intent.
But, and this is a crucial but, building inevitability on your end as a candidate is only half the battle.
Right, because you eventually have to talk to the company.
Eventually, the system you built is going to collide with the system the employer has built. You have to face the actual hiring process. You have to walk through what BAIR refers to as the be hired door.
And the sources indicate that when you walk through that be hired door, you are entering a space that is defined entirely by governed AI. The doctrine states that BAIR's recruitment philosophy is to hire by the book.
Yes.
It is super efficient, it is heavily tech-driven, but above all else, it is strictly, unyieldingly governed.
Which is a critical distinction from how most tech companies are currently using AI.
The documentation highlights that BAIR explicitly recognizes recruitment AI as high risk. And I have to say, as a candidate, reading that is incredibly validating.
I'm sure it is.
Because it feels like most of the tech industry right now treats AI like it's just a fun magic trick, like a toy to generate funny images or write a quick email. But BAIR acknowledges that when you deploy an algorithm to decide who gets an interview and who gets rejected, you are dealing with people's livelihoods. You are deciding who can pay their mortgage. The stakes could not be higher.
It is the highest possible stakes, which introduces massive liability for the company. And because BAIR recognizes this high-risk nature, they do not rely on a black box algorithm where data goes in and magic comes out.
Which is what we talked about at the very beginning.
Right. The entire ecosystem aligns with incredibly strict regulatory and management frameworks. Specifically, it aligns with the EU AI Act, the ISO 42001 standard, and the NIST AI Risk Management Framework.
Okay, stop right there. EU AI Act, ISO 42001, NIST RMF. We just hit a massive wall of regulatory acronyms.
It is an alphabet soup, I admit.
Yeah. If I am David, the logistics manager, and I am preparing for my Tuesday interview, my eyes just glazed over. What do these frameworks actually mean for the candidate on the ground? Why should a job seeker care about, ISO 42001?
A job seeker should care deeply because these acronyms act as a literal shield against the worst aspects of modern hiring.
Okay, let's translate this into candidate-level reality.
Let's take ISO 42001. That is the international standard for managing AI systems. For you, the candidate, an employer adhering to this standard means they legally and operationally cannot ghost you based on a biased AI filter. It means the system evaluating your resume is regularly audited for fairness.
Oh, wow. So it's the difference between walking into a Wild West saloon where the dealer can just cheat you and a highly regulated casino where the local gaming commission audits the machines every single week.
That is exactly it. And all of this regulatory compliance is powered under the hood by something called the Aerios governance, an audit engine.
Okay, what is Aerios? Let's demystify that engine for a second.
Aerios functions as the operational brain of the governance model. It is the engine that ensures every single decision made by the AI adheres to the Davincia Plus or DVA standard.
It's just what?
That's BAIR's internal benchmark for excellence and integrity. Aerios monitors the inputs and the outputs, ensuring nothing violates those established frameworks. And the absolute cornerstone of how Aerios operates is known as the reconstruction principle.
Nothing is trusted just because it happened. Everything is trusted because it is reconstructible. That is a fascinating legal and operational philosophy.
It is revolutionary for the hiring landscape. Think about a traditional, ungoverned interview. Decisions are so often made based on a recruiter's gut feeling.
Oh, all the time.
A hiring manager might reject you because they, quote, didn't like your vibe. Or maybe because you didn't go to the right university, and they mask that bias behind vague feedback like, not a culture fit.
Which leaves the candidate completely powerless because you can't argue with vibe.
Exactly. But under the reconstruction principle, gut feelings are entirely invalid. Every single decision, every resume screening, every gate you pass, every interview you fail must be backed by empirical evidence that can be pulled up, replayed, and legally justified by the Aerios engine.
So if we look at the mechanics of this, it is exactly like professional sports introducing instant replay.
Yes.
The referee on the field can no longer just make a game-changing call based on a hunch or a bad angle. The tapes can be pulled, the angles can be reviewed, and the decision can be reconstructed based on the objective rules of the game. If David, the logistics manager, doesn't get the job, the governed system has to be able to prove exactly why based on his CQV market signals. not because the recruiter was having a bad day.
It forces fairness into the very infrastructure of the hiring process. And, crucially, to maintain this standard, BAIR insists that a human in the loop, which is often abbreviated as HITL, is absolutely non-negotiable.
Meaning the AI is never making the final, unreviewed decision to hire or fire someone.
Correct. The Arios engine and the AI do the heavy lifting of processing the vast amounts of data, running the audits, and correlating the skills. But a human being must stay accountable for the final judgment. The AI recommends, the human decides.
Which raises a pretty big operational question in my mind.
Go ahead.
If I have all this governance, right? Arios auditing every move, ISO 42001 compliance checks, reconstruction of data, and a human in the loop having to review it all, doesn't that create massive bottlenecks? Are we trading the speed of AI for the fairness of governance? Like, does this make the process slower for the candidate?
It is a totally logical concern. But the reality is the exact opposite. Governance is not the brake pedal, it is the steering wheel. Yes. Because the AI engine can instantly process and reconstruct the data against a known standard, the human recruiter is entirely free from the administrative drudgery. They aren't spending 3 weeks manually reading through 1,000 resumes. They are instantly presented with a curated, bias-checked, reconstructible shortlist, allowing them to apply human judgment immediately. The process is significantly faster because the friction of uncertainty is removed.
Okay, so let's put the candidate back in the hot seat. I am David. I know I am walking through the be hired door into a highly governed system that values empirical evidence and reconstructible data over spin and charm. How does that change the way I act during the actual interview?
It changes everything.
Yeah.
It requires you to utilize BAIR's clean hands power play.
The clean hands power play.
Yes, the doctrine explicitly states the rule of engagement here. Never a weapon, never a bluff, never argue present reality, then the remediation path.
Present reality, then the remediation path. How does David actually execute that when he is asked a really tough question? Let's say he's missing a skill.
Let's set the scene. The interviewer looks at David's profile and says, David, we need someone who is certified in enterprise software X. I don't see that on your CQV map.
Oof, that's a scary moment in an interview.
Now, the old way, the frantic hope and effort way, is to bluff. David might say, oh, well, I'm an incredibly fast learner. I've seen screenshots of Software X, and I essentially used a very similar platform 5 years ago, so I'm basically an expert.
He tries to spin a weakness into this vague strength. We've all done it.
But in a governed system monitored by Arios, that bluff is immediately flagged as a risk. Why? Because it cannot be reconstructed. There's no empirical evidence of his expertise.
The instant replay shows he clearly dropped the ball, but he's standing there arguing he caught it. It destroys his credibility instantly.
Exactly. So instead, David uses the clean hands power play. First, he presents reality. He says, you are correct. I do not currently possess the certification for Enterprise Software X.
Wow, just owning it.
It is clean, it is honest, it is factually undeniable. He disarms the objection by agreeing with the data.
And then the pivot?
Then the remediation path, David continues. However, my 90-day onboarding plan includes completing the foundational certification for Software X by week 3. I will use the exact same system learning principles I applied to Master Automated Routing System Y at my last company, which, as the data shows, resulted in a 15% reduction in delivery times.
Wow. He isn't arguing that he has the skill. He isn't hiding the gap. He's demonstrating that even his weaknesses are managed by a highly structured system. He is acting like a governed bear himself.
He's proving that he is not a liability. He is proving that he understands the ultimate lesson from the library, which is the foundational mindset required for the AI era. Which brings us directly to BAIR's overarching technology philosophy.
This is the philosophy that governs how a candidate should view the tools of the future. The doctrine states, AI is labor you manage, not software you license.
If a candidate takes absolutely nothing else away from this masterclass, they must internalize that sentence. To be highly employable in the future that systems like BAIR are building, you must completely reposition yourself. You are not someone competing against the machine for a job. You must position yourself as a manager of the machine. The doctrine is clear. The machine removes the drudgery so that people can do the judgment. Technology serves standards, never the reverse.
Let me make sure I am grasping the nuance here because it's so important. It is the fundamental difference between buying a fancy new hammer at the hardware store and hiring an apprentice to work in your shop.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Right, because if you buy a software license like a word processor, it is just a tool. It sits there until you swing it. But AI is labor. You don't just use an apprentice, you govern them. You check their work, you give them a framework, and then you apply your senior human judgment to their output to ensure it actually meets the standard.
That is a phenomenal analogy. When you walk into an interview in the AI era, if you talk about artificial intelligence as a magic button that you press to do your job for you faster, you look like a profound liability to a governed system. You look like someone who's going to let the apprentice run the shop and totally ruin the product.
Because you aren't applying judgment.
But if you talk about AI as a labor force that requires strict standards, rigorous governance, and your expert human judgment to keep it from drifting off course, now you look like a CEO. Now your value is undeniable.
You are telling the hiring manager, I am the human in the loop.
You are the governance. You are the standard. The AI does the heavy lifting, but you hold the compass.
This has been an absolutely unbelievable masterclass. I want to take a moment to just recap the massive journey we have taken today because we have covered a staggering amount of ground. We started by arriving at the Woodland Executive Lodge, leaving the chaotic, frantic, broken X-ray machine of the typical job hunt behind, and sitting down with the calm authority of the governed bear.
We stepped into the library.
Right, where we learned to use the CQV guide to diagnose our actual value, mapping our skills against inevitable market signals rather than relying on vanity metrics and busyness.
We explore the architecture of scaling that value, moving step by step from proving our systems in the concept hall to broadcasting them in the grand auditorium, all the way to achieving the leverage of the Olympic Stadium.
We adapted the 90-day CEO transformation program, applying a rigorous weekly rhythm. You know, constructing the asset on Monday, building the infrastructure on Tuesday, facing customer reality on Wednesday, creating leverage on Thursday, and brutally auditing the data in the Friday war room. All to ensure that our job hunt is a machine, not a desperate manual effort.
And we demystified what it actually means to walk through the Be Hired door into a governed recruitment ecosystem.
Yeah, we learned how frameworks like the EU AI Act, ISO 42001, and the Arios engine use the reconstruction principle to act as a shield for the candidate, replacing biased gut feelings with empirical evidence.
We learned how to wield the clean hands power play to navigate interviews with unassailable integrity. And ultimately, we locked in the vital mindset shift that will keep any professional relevant in the coming decades. AI is labor you manage, and your true value is your judgment and your adherence to standards.
It is a complete and total rewiring of how you think about your professional existence.
And through it all, BI maintains that quiet, unbothered authority. The tools are built, the library is open, the infrastructure is available. But the standard remains incredibly high. The governed bearer does not chase you. He does not hype you up. He just offers the system. As his signature sign-off states, when you're ready, let's talk. The bear.
When you're ready. I love that phrasing so much. It takes all the external pressure of the job market and puts the responsibility right back on you, the candidate. Are you actually ready to stop acting on hope and start building inevitability? So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final challenge. Think about your own professional history right now. If a governed engine like Arios were to look at your last 3 career moves and it applied the strict reconstruction principle to your decisions, could you actually reconstruct the empirical evidence of why you made those choices? Were those moves driven by a durable system, guided by a clear-eyed view of your CQV market signals? Or were they driven by panic, hope, busyness, and raw, exhausting, unscalable effort? If you realize it's the latter, well, maybe it's time you take a walk in the woods.